Hello, this is Kevin. I've got another licensed nurse meeting. Today's March 2nd, and I'm going to try to display the agenda a little bit so you guys can read along with me. First thing is that corporate has asked Linda to put a stop to all the overtime here at Country Crest. During a period of time when our census was low, our building was not earning very much money, yet we were spending more and more all the time. So overtime is no longer tolerated. The kind of overtime we're talking about is when you come in early to finish your charting from the day previous. No longer can you do that. You have to come in at the time of the start of your shift. And when your shift is over, you have to leave when your shift is over. Now, if you're doing CPR on somebody and there's a life-threatening emergency, or if a resident's health and well-being will be in jeopardy because you're leaving on time, then you get to stay. But you just have to text me and let me know, Kevin, I had to stay overtime, and it was because I was providing patient care. And if I know about it ahead of time, then I will cover for you and you won't get in trouble. But overtime is no longer tolerated. Each pay period, I'm going to be given a copy of the time and attendance sheets, and it's actually going to show when everybody clocks in and when everybody leaves. So everybody will be on here. So I have to review it, and if you've got overtime and I didn't approve of it, then you may be given a write-up. So Linda wants me to write people up. So this is your fair warning. I'm saying now, the overtime that you've done in the past, don't worry about it. I'm not going to write you up for it. But going forward here, after March 2nd, no overtime is allowed. When we're talking about overtime, let's talk about meal premiums too. Meal premiums are actually when you don't take a lunch before, or start your lunch before 5 hours into your shift. So here's an example. We had somebody who clocked in early, an hour early, but they took their lunch at their regular time. Well, they got a meal premium because they didn't start their lunch before 5 hours after they clocked in to start their shift. Now, because you are now going to be clocking in at the beginning of your shift, 6:30 a.m. for day shift, 2:30 p.m. for PM shift, and 10:30 p.m. for night shift. So 5 hours after that is before that you have to start your meal period. So here's my suggestion. Have your cell phone out, and when you clock in, set a timer for 4 hours and 45 minutes. And that's when you have to take your lunch. You have to start taking your lunch 4 hours and 45 minutes, plus or minus a few. But if you hit that 5 hour mark, you're going to get a meal premium. Now, meal premiums cost the building money, and they actually are showing that we're not providing you with meal breaks per the labor law. Sunmar gets in trouble for that, and when Sunmar gets in trouble for that, they give Linda trouble, and when Linda gets in trouble for it, then she gives me trouble for it. So, meal premiums are no longer tolerated. Please, you have to take your lunch before the 5th hour after the start of your shift. Now, if you're working a double shift or any more than 10 hours, you have to take 2 breaks. There's no waiver on that. You have to take 2 lunches. So 5 hours into your shift, you better have already started your first meal premium. And then 10 hours after you started the beginning of your shift, you have to take a second break. If you work 6 hours or less, you don't have to take a meal break. Tardy. I've got a lot of people that show up to work late every day, some CNAs and some nurses, so that's going to be addressed. Our employee handbook says any more than 2 instances of tardiness within a 30-day period is considered excessive, and it will be a written counseling in your personnel file. So tardy is not tolerated either, because what happens with tardy, it leads to overtime. The previous shift will now have to do overtime because you showed up to work late. So the person who was tardy is going to be in deep doo-doo. Next on the list, transfer out documentation. You know, this is not a new rule. We just really get really bad with it. But, we're supposed to document in a nurse note every time we send somebody out to either an appointment or the emergency room what their COVID-19 status is. So if they're going to a dental appointment, you actually have to call the dentist's office and tell them, oh, this person's coming out of a green zone and is not considered exposed to COVID-19. And then you have to write a nurse note about it. Or you're called to the dentist office, it has to say something like they're coming out of a yellow zone. They potentially could have been exposed to COVID-19. So that's the kind of thing we have to see in a nurse note every time a person leaves our building. And it has to go on the dialysis sheet too. Those people who are going to dialysis, we have 2 of them right now, you have to include their COVID-19 status. So for the 2 that we have, they're always going to be in yellow zone. So that's what needs to be said on the dialysis sheets that go back. Residents under quarantine, yellow zone quarantine for potential exposure to COVID-19. So each time we don't do that, we actually get a fine for non-compliance, and we put the community at risk for exposure to COVID-19. So it has to be done. This building can't get any more fines for that. We had an audit and we almost never do that. So it needs to be done every time somebody goes out to the hospital. Also, I want to talk about treatments. You know what, treatments? We looked at the treatment book for February, and it looks really bad. People are just not doing their treatments. So I need you guys to pick that up. You guys need to be doing your treatments. Consider that just like a medication. It's an error if you guys don't have treatments done. Now, while we're talking about charting that's not getting done, we're having a real big problem with Medicare charting not getting done. We only have to do it once a day, every 24 hours. But it has to be done every 24 hours, or that's a day that we can't get paid for Medicare. So I want you to know that it's divided up. Half of this building gets a day shift and half on PMs. I think it's fair. But if you look in your assignments, you don't have anybody on Medicare, but PM shift is going to have to do like 3 or 4. Please be the nice person and do some of their Medicare charting for them. It actually would be really nice to do that. Share some of the responsibility for charting. But Medicare notes have to be done every day. I can look in I grab any Medicare residence chart right now, and I can find holes all through it. At least 2 out of every 7 days there's not charting. So I need you guys to pick that up, because we can't be admitting these people and providing all this care and then we don't get paid for it. Also, when we're talking about Medicare charting, there was a practice in this building some years ago, and that said that a new admission has to have Medicare charting on all 3 shifts for the first 3 days. We no longer need to do that. We do need to do it once per day from the day of admission. So the nursing admission assessment can count as the first day's note and with the admission note. That can be the first day's Medicare charting. But after that, we have to have Medicare charting at least once a day on every resident every day. No longer do we have to do 3 shifts, 3 days. But if you're on like night shift and we have 2 admits or something, those are people on change of condition charting, and you need to write a narrative note on them. So please do narrative note charting on these people. What next? You know what? I'm not getting incident reports. Incident reports are supposed to be done on every incident, whether it's a medication error, somebody got a skin tear, equipment broke and somebody got injured, an elopement, theft. It's not just for falls. I need an incident report, and this is something that's a facility building incident report. It tells us that we're having accidents, or we have equipment that is failing, or it puts the resident at risk for getting harmed, or they actually did get harmed. So I need an incident report. Now, the main thing on an incident report is that page that describes the incident. If you can get witness statements, actually that's incorrect. statements from other staff that were on duty. When I say witness statement, people say, well, nobody saw that person fall, so there are no witness statements. That's not what I need. I need somebody to give me some sort of a note that says, what was the resident doing before the incident? What was the resident behaving like during the day? When was the last time they were toileted? That sort of thing. I want to also talk about the emergency crash cart. We got a new cart over there, and on top of it is a clipboard. Each day we're supposed to check the seal and initial the form. This is a requirement that comes from corporate. It's actually in our policy. Once a month we got to open it up and check for expired items. Now, if you get a chance on your shift, the next shift that you work, go over to the crash cart, and it's in front of Linda's office, and look for the clipboard on top of it. You'll see that there's one sheet for each month. The current month is March, and I've already opened it up and checked the contents, and I've been checking the seal, but I don't work 7 days a week. So basically I need somebody on weekends to do this. If you get a moment, please just look at that crash cart. All the items that are in there are listed on that form, and it's a single page form, one for each month. The next thing I want to talk about is your CPR card outdated. You better get it current because you can potentially be taken off the schedule. This is not a company policy. This is the Nurse Practice Act with the state of California. The Board of Registered Nursing and the Board of Vocational Nurse and Psychiatric Technician Examiners requires that its licensees keep and maintain a CPR card while their license is active. So if you want to continue to work, you need to keep an active CPR card. Call-offs after hours. Every once in a while we're having problems with people getting calling off, and NPH will call in the evening, nobody answers the phone, or somebody does answer the phone and they fail to write it down somewhere. Then we're trying to figure out why is it that we don't have somebody here for day shift. When we call NPH, they say, oh, well, we called and spoke to this person on the PM shift and told them that they were sick and unable to come in. So please, if you are the one that take a sick call for NPH, please, or a sick call for anybody, please put it on the assignment sheet back there. In the break room, there's a binder, the sign-in sheets, and it has everybody's phone number. So if you're trying to look for staffing, you're on night shift, for instance, and there's not enough staff because somebody called in, there's a list of phone numbers there, and it even identifies who works nights. So you can actually make a few phone calls and try to get your own replacement. Keep in mind that Melissa is our staffer. She's actually the scheduler. She works 40 hours a week, 8 hours a day. She works Tuesday through Saturday. So right now she's in school, and she may not be able to drop everything when she's in a lecture or taking a final exam to help you with the staffing need when you have the phone number list right there in front of you. So I want you guys to try to help with the staffing as you can on those after hours and weekends when we are challenged for our staffing. Another thing I wanted to mention real quick, and it wasn't on the agenda sheet there, is that we're no longer doing a one-on-one at night. This particular resident in room 120 she still has some days when she's awake, but more frequently she's sleeping. Now, we just don't have enough people to put a one-on-one 3 shifts. We're trying to hire unskilled labor to be the one-on-one sitter. These are people who would, they're not CNAs that can sit with her. So what does that mean? The staff that the CNAs that are assigned to the cottage will have to provide the care that a CNA would provide, in addition to having a sitter. The sitter is there to just keep them safe. So the sitter isn't responsible for doing their vital signs, feeding them, giving them a bath, changing their linen. These are unskilled people. So really there needs to be a CNA that does that. That's all I got. Please text me with problems or concerns. I do see all of your texts. Sometimes in the middle of the night I sleep very soundly, but if you call me and I don't answer, hang up and call me right back. It will ring, and I do answer. So anyways, thank you for all your hard work, and talk to you again, I'm sure.